Protection in respect of conviction for offences. Under Article 20, the following protections are available to a citizen. If he is convicted to any kind of offense, then that person is also given some kind of protection under Article 20. So we will study what are those protections. Against greater penalty than what is prescribed under the law is prohibited. So whatever penalty is mentioned in the law, that penalty has to be imposed. Greater penalty is prohibited. No one can be punished or prosecuted for the same offense twice. If the same offense is done twice by that single person, then that is also restricted. No one can be punished or prosecuted for the same offense twice. A person cannot be compelled to be a witness, means he cannot be forced. A person cannot be forced to be a witness in the case where he himself is accused of the offense, the crime he has committed, and so that person cannot be his own witness. So these are the protections that are provided to the convict against any kind of offense. Then protection of life and personal liberty. Under Article 21, a person cannot be deprived of his life and liberty except in accordance with the law. So a person cannot be told that he cannot live his life or he cannot be given freedom except in accordance with the law. That we will study here in this fact file. There is the right to privacy that we will study in details regarding this protection of life and personal liberty. Protection against arrest and detention. Article 22 gives such rights to the citizens under two different circumstances. So this protection against arrest and detention is divided into two different circumstances. One is ordinary circumstance, another is preventive detention. That I already told you, we will study in details. So first is ordinary circumstances. In the case of arrest under ordinary circumstances, the arrested person has the following rights. So if any person is arrested under ordinary circumstance, that person too has some kind of rights. So what are the rights? To be informed of his or her offense. He has to be informed, he or she has to be informed that what he or she has done, what offense he or she has committed. Second is to be presented before a magistrate within 24 hours of the time of arrest. So within 24 hours of the time of the arrest, he or she should be presented in front of the magistrate. Such a person cannot be kept in a custody for more than 24 hours without the permission of the magistrate. So such kind of people cannot be kept into custody for more than 24 hours without being informed or without the permission of the magistrate. So that is why he has to be presented in front of the magistrate within 24 hours. The right to consult a lawyer and prepare for defense at the trial. The convict gets the right to consult a lawyer and to defend himself. So this was the right under ordinary circumstance. Now what are the rights under preventive detention? In case a person is detained under preventive detention, he can be kept in custody for a period of 3 months without trial. So preventive detention is actually done when there is some kind of occasion in the state, some kind of ceremony. So what is done? The convicts, they are caught beforehand so that they are actually kept in trial. They are caught beforehand so that they do not get a chance to create any kind of problem during the ceremony or during the occasion. So that is preventive detention, that is catching beforehand. So that also has some kind of restrictions, or that also has some kind of right for the convict, that he cannot be kept in custody for a period of 3 months without trial. Such a person has the following rights. Preventive detention does not mean that a person stands accused. So as I told you, they are caught beforehand. That does not mean that he or she has done anything. That is only for that is only a kind of prevention, a kind of preventive measure taken to keep harmony during the ceremony or during the occasion. It is only a precautionary measure. Detention beyond 3 months can be extended only by an advisory board. So already we studied that the detention should not be more than 3 months. If it has to be extended beyond 3 months, then that has to be done by the advisory board constituted for the purpose and consisting of a judge of the High Court. Ground of detention have to be specified and the detainee informed of these grounds. So the ground of detention has to be specified, why that person has been grounded, and the detainee has to be informed that on what grounds he has been detained. He also has the right to make representation against the detention order. So the detainee also has the right to make representation, to represent himself against this detention order. So This is preventive detention. Then the limitations to this right is public interest. First is public interest. The authority or the state can take recourse to public interest and refuse to disclose the grounds of detention. So if the authority wants, the authority or the state, they can for public interest they can refuse to disclose the grounds on which the detainee has been detained. Then power of the parliament. The legislature or the parliament has the power to specify the maximum period of preventive detention. So already we studied it is 3 months, but the parliament has the power to either increase this period of trial or the period to keep the detainee in custody. That period can be increased by parliament. So these are the limitations. So now we will study this right to privacy, a fundamental right. On August 24, 2017, the Supreme Court of India declared the right to privacy as a fundamental right. That means the people can live their privacy without being interfered by the law. Right to privacy. The Supreme Court confirmed that the right to privacy is a fundamental right that does not need to be separately articulated but can be derived from Articles 14, 19 and 21 of the Constitution. So the Supreme Court confirmed that this right to privacy, it need not be mentioned separately in the Constitution, but this right can be derived from Articles 14, 19 and 21 of the Constitution. So this is a kind of derived fundamental right which is derived from the Articles 14, 19 and 21. It is a fundamental right about all information of a person and the choice that he makes. So this is the right in which the person can make a choice of his or her life, how he lives. So that is their choice. It protects an individual from the scrutiny of the state in their home. So according to this right, the state cannot unnecessarily scrutinize. Scrutinize means cannot check or observe the individual's home, their movements, or over their reproductive choice of partners, food habits, etc. These things are restricted to the state. They cannot interfere in the day-to-day life of a person. That is right to privacy. Not an absolute right. So as we already studied in right to freedom, it was not an absolute right. It was imposed, it was subjected to some kind of restrictions, and that also during certain periods like emergency and all. So this right is also not absolute. It is subjected to some kind of restrictions. The Supreme Court clarified that the fundamental right to privacy is not absolute and will always be subject to reasonable restrictions, because again it comes for state interest or national interest. If state interest and national interest is concerned, then this right can come under certain restrictions. The state can impose restrictions on it to protect legitimate state interest, but it can only do by following the given points. So it is not like that the state can arbitrarily impose any restriction it wants. It can impose restrictions, but by following these points. So what are the points? Existence of a law that justifies an encroachment of policy. There should be a perfect law which justifies that why the privacy has been encroached by the state or why the privacy has been scrutinized by the state. So that law has to be justified. A legitimate state need that ensures that the nature of this law falls within the zone of reasonableness and without arbitrary state action. So this law has to be reasonable. The reason has to be mentioned without any arbitrary state action. It is not like that any person of the state, any government person can use their unnecessary power, can use their power to encroach the privacy of a person. That cannot be done. The state needs should be within the zone of reasonableness. Why the state is interfering in the privacy of a person's life, that zone should be reasonable. The means adopted by the state are proportional to the objects and needs sought to be fulfilled by the law. The objects and needs that the law has mentioned, the state has to adopt those objects and needs to scrutinize the privacy or to encroach the privacy of a person. According to the judgment, the legitimate aims of the state should be, so why this right is subjected to restriction to protect national security. As I told you, if national security or national interest and state interest is concerned, then this right has to be restricted, is put under reasonable restrictions. means preventing and investigating crime. If any kind of crime scene has been if any kind of crime scene was there, then obviously the state needs to investigate within the privacy of the individual, encouraging innovation and the spread of knowledge, and preventing the dissipation of social welfare benefits. Dissipation means disappearance, so that there is no disappearance of any kind of social welfare benefits. So these are the reasons why this right has been put under reasonable restrictions. So when we talk about privacy, so what that privacy includes, it includes preservation of personal intimacies, the sanctity of family life, the purity of family life, marriage, procreation means reproduction, home and sexual orientation, a right to be left alone, safeguards individual autonomy means independence, individual independence, protecting vital aspects of his or her life. Personal choices governing a way of life are intrinsic to privacy. A person, how he wishes to live his life, that is up to him. It recognizes plurality and diversity of our culture. Any person, they can live in any culture, in any diversified culture, that also comes under privacy. The next is right to information. This is very important. Right to information has been included in Article 19(1) of the Constitution. Right to information is an implied fundamental right. So what do you mean by this implied fundamental right? An implied fundamental right is the one which is a part of a named fundamental right or partakes of the same basic nature and character as the fundamental right. That means this particular fundamental right, this implied fundamental right, has been derived from some other fundamental right. That is why it is called an implied fundamental right. Since right to information is implicit in the right to freedom of speech and expression, so this right to information has been derived or extracted from right to freedom of speech and expression, which was in Article 19. That is why it is called, this RTI is called an implied fundamental right. It is an implied fundamental right because if one does not know the facts, one cannot speak freely. So this is an implied fundamental right because already we know that in the right to freedom of speech and expression, anyone can speak freely without any kind of restriction. But in here what happens, anyone can extract any information he or she wants to know, so that one does not know the facts, one cannot speak freely. If he does not know the facts, if he does not know the information, he cannot speak freely. So the Right to Information Act came into force on October 12, 2005. This is very important. It came into force on October 12, 2005. This act gives the citizens of India the right to seek and receive information from the government and other public authorities. Any information the Indian citizens want, they can take it from the government or other public authorities, ask them certain questions, take copies including certified copies of documents, any document copies they want or certified copies they want, they can take, inspect documents, they can examine the documents, take sample of material. So these are the freedom that is given under right to information. Any citizen can file an application under RTI with the Public Information Officer. This is also important, under which officers they can file an application under RTI. Those are Public Information Officers, PIOs, and Assistant Public Information Officers, APIOs, and seek the required information. Whatever information they require, they can contact these officers and they can seek the information. The next is right against exploitation, that is Articles 23 and 24. The right upholds the dignity of the individual and prohibits exploitation in following respects. First is Article 23A, freedom from slavery, beggary, or other forms of forced labor. Article 23A imposes restrictions on slavery, beggary, and other forms of forced labor. That is why now slavery does not exist. Then trafficking in human beings means buying and selling of human beings is prohibited. It also prohibits use of women or girls for immoral purposes. So in trafficking in human beings, it also restricts the use of women or girls for any kind of immoral purposes. Then Article 24, this article prohibits employment of children below the age of 14 years in factories, mines, or other hazardous occupations. Child labor is restricted in Article 24. Below the child belonging, if he is below the age of 14, then he cannot work in any kind of hazardous occupation in any kind of factories or mines. The practice of bonded labor has also been declared unlawful. Bonded labor is a kind of slavery and that is also declared unlawful under Article 24.